Hello, captains, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, USS Endeavor. We are aboard the Tier 4 French tech tree cruiser, the Emile Bertin. So this is a fantastic ship, and my go-to ship that I pick whenever there's a specific mission where you need citadels. And although it's a Tier 4, if it's a harder mission that requires Tier 5 and above, I get a little sad because this thing chews up citadels for breakfast. Because of the AP shells and the characteristics that they have, which we will go over here briefly and soon, but it's just a fantastic ship that I love at Tier 4, and it's all free. So let's take a look at the commander, which is going to be very familiar, and then we'll go over the stats of the ship itself, and then we'll see some fantastic gameplay. Yet again, we have Lemonnier at the helm, and his base trait is going to help with the reducing your detection a little bit faster. But everything is built into speed, and you're going to see that it really helps because you don't get a propulsion mod in Tier 4. You don't have the ability to equip it. But in the only mod slot that we have chosen the Aiming Systems Mod 1. So on to the rest of the ship stats for the consumables themselves. We have a sonar, which is a low range, but it's good to have it for torpedoes, and along with the catapult fighter for carriers and just overall spotting. On to the actual ship stats themselves. Now this is interesting. I looked this up, and you'll have to look at it too just to make sure that I'm not lying, but the survivability is 26,500, which is actually 200 hit points less than the Tier 3 counterpart in the Duguay Truine. And I'm not lying to you. You got to go look it up. It is 200 hit points less, but a little bit better torpedo reduction at 7% versus 4%. On to the guns themselves, and this is also a very interesting stat line. We have 9 152 millimeters as opposed to the 8 guns of the Truine at 155 millimeters. So it's technically a slightly lower caliber, but for some reason, that lower caliber allows the AP shells, which actually do more damage, even though it's a less caliber, to hit citadels more frequently. I don't get it, but it's a thing. On to the torpedoes. You actually have less torpedoes, as the Doogie had 12. 6 on each side. This only has 6 total, 3 on each side. You do get 1 kilometer better range. The speed is still pretty slow, and they hit decently well for a cruiser, but less torpedoes than the Doogie. AA defense is slightly better, although I wouldn't put a lot of stock into it. It does deal out technically more damage than the Doogie, but still not great. On to the maneuverability, and this is where this ship really shines. 42.9 knot base speed. This thing screams in the water. And you don't have a engine speed boost. You don't need it. This thing can get up to speed rather quickly and sustain it. So kiting in this thing can be a thing, especially since your armor is really weak. On to the concealment. 11.1 kilometer detection by sea, 7 by air, and 5.6 by smoke. Now, all these are slightly worse than the Doogie, but that's kind of expected. As you go up the tiers, all of these numbers are going to increase slightly. On to my individual ship stats. Not doing too bad. Almost have 50 matches in her and at a 77% win rate. Mainly solo. And on to the armor. It's still really, really weak. But because of the weak armor, a lot of battleship shells will pass right through you, doing nothing but overpens. That is your Citadel, which is slightly above the waterline. It's a little bit bigger than the Doogie this time. But again, because of how lightly armored it is, you can get those overpens that do minimal damage. Now, on to the gameplay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, please strap in, as this is going to be a bumpy ride. Yes, that is right. I don't know what else to say. You're going to find out here rather quickly. The action comes quick and intense for the first couple minutes. As soon as the first shells start flying, you're going to know exactly what I mean. So here we're going to spawn over here on the alpha side, and we're just going to hold this. Now we're going to get some support and help from our team. Some from the mid is actually going to come over to this side. our destroyer over here, which I need to apologize right off the bat. I'm trying to reposition over here on the left-hand side, and I'm hoping I can get in front of him, but I don't turn nearly as quickly as I thought I could, and I end up just screaming right into him, and nothing but a love tap. Sorry about that, buddy. I know you were trying to get in there, and I kind of slowed you down a little bit, which consequently slowed me down too. But in doing so, he is still going to be a great help over on this side. So apologies for that little bump. So we're going to throw some torpedoes right there in the mid, just in case a destroyer decides to foolishly run into those. And as we can see, a Julio Cesare, which is out there, which I'm not excited to see. That thing is a beast. And here is the Phoenix, and as soon as I notice that he's broadside, I quickly switch to the AP. And this is what I'm talking about with these shells. Now, they do reload rather slowly at 11 seconds, but they have good velocity, and they have really good pen. And they can do that quite frequently if you get those broadside targets. And as we all know here on the lower tiers, that happens quite frequently. So 3 citadels, 4 full penetrations, giving us a nice hit and a good reminder to that Phoenix. Don't do that. Now, as we are approaching the cap, it is being taken, which at first I was assuming was the Phoenix. However, as I'm getting into the cap, I decide to pop my hydro right about now, I think. Well, as soon as I pop the hydro, which I'm glad I did, you're about to see what all kind of trouble is here in the cap, which is not just the Phoenix. There we go. We pop it, and it's 1, 2 destroyers. And right before I'm about to zoom in, a third one shows up. So all 3 destroyers came to this side, which is a huge misplay. You don't need all the destroyers on one side, which is probably why we took the opposite cap rather quickly. But we're right there in the thick of it with 3 destroyers that are pretty much right on top of us. So we quickly take out the first one, dodging that set of torps. We throw torps off our right side, shooting at the other destroyer, knocking out the engine. And the torpedoes find their home, and we take him out, and then, not to be undone, the G101 comes around the corner. We smack him hard with 6 full pins, and then the torpedo that he shoots is coming in, so we're trying to go forward without the propulsion mod. This is a bit of a problem, but our next salvo, we take him out. Unfortunately, he clips our rudder, but we are able to repair it, and that's all 3 destroyers down. 1, 2, 3. Unbelievable. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. On to the rest of the ships, which I got to be honest, if I was that Königsberg and I just saw all 3 of our destroyers lemming train through the cap and get taken out by one ship, one by one, I would be a little demoralized myself too. Now, I did throw those torpedoes kind of as a tactic to get him to slow down. I didn't think he was going to run into those, but here he's starting to push forward now that those torpedoes have cleared. And this is where that support from my team is going to start coming in, as we are shooting him with HE. But look at that. Just all that sustained fire. He just came out just a little too far. And here I thought that this salvo that I just shot was going to take him out, but it doesn't. We don't get that kill, which unfortunately is going to rob us of the Kraken. Spoiler alert. But he goes down, and that cap, although is still red, the Phoenix never decided to come out and play. He got a front row seat to all 4 of those ships on this side go down rather quickly. But he's still in the cap. So we got to go back in there, contest it, take it, and hopefully sink the Phoenix. And I'm not quite sure where that Julio is at. We spotted him early on in the match, but goodness gracious, such a furious start, and I don't think I've ever had all the destroyers come to one side of the map this quick and die that fast to me. I'm sure it's happened to other people, but that's the first time I've experienced it. And So I figured you guys would enjoy that. And there the Phoenix pops up, and our friendly destroyer that we bumped into earlier at the beginning of the match, we're going to end up doing it again. I'm trying to get over here to get my guns to bear, and by doing that, we kind of block him and shove him off to the side and shoot AP into his side and get 3 more citadels and the kill. So all 6 citadels that I got in that were all against the Phoenix. So the power of the AP on the Emile is not to be taken lightly. Very, very good AP shells, and you can still do it from range. It just holds its penetration really, really well. Didn't really get to showcase it as much in this match, but trust me, if you need citadels, take this puppy out. You won't be disappointed. So as we're kind of coming to the end of this match, at first I thought that this was going to be a pretty clean sweep, and we do have 3 caps to 1, and the remaining ships are all battleships and 1 carrier, which oddly enough never really pestered us, and we haven't actually seen the carrier at all. They just decided not to come to that side. I guess because the destroyers went over there, he didn't feel a need to come support that side, but thankfully that was the case. All destroyers are down. The carrier didn't come over here. Kind of a really odd match for me, but much appreciated nonetheless. The Julio did not want to play over at A and decided to kind of leave. However, he hasn't really accomplished much of anything by just kind of staying mid. So here, if you can see the score, it's really ticking up fast because we've got those 3 caps. And there we get a double fire against the Julio with our last salvo, but I think he puts it out here really soon, although the damage is still ticking. And then here we're just we don't really need to push. We don't have great armor. Can't bow tank these guys. And really what we need to do is we just need to survive. And if we can farm some damage at this point, then we can do so. I really feel like I did the ultimate job of a cruiser in this match by literally taking out all of the destroyers. But now that we're near the end of the match, that carrier is now going to start focusing us a little bit. And we're going to get some planes, a couple of them shot down. But here's a drop from the carrier, which unfortunately causes a flood because of course it does. And that last salvo that I shot right as the game ends gives us the Confederate medal. Not a high cal, a Confederate. So really crazy match. 4 kills. All 3 destroyers are mine. Practically 2,500 base XP and a overwhelming crazy win. So holy crap, captains, that was a lot of fun. Really quick, but a good one nonetheless. So there's a look at the Emile Bertin. Highly recommend checking this ship out. It's a fun one. You'll have a blast playing it. Just understand you don't have a lot of armor. So make sure that you are staying at range and use AP against those broadside targets. So anyway, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you, captains, for all of your support. And I look forward to seeing you in the Tier 5 Le Glycinaire. And this is the USS Endeavor signing off.